John Dewey said, "We do not learn from experience, but we learn from reflecting on our experience." Hi, y'all. Thanks so much for joining me. And like and share this video if you get value from it. In less than 15 minutes, I'll be sharing with you one thing that you can do for your business to help you stay motivated so that you can continue your path to success. So as you join, you can say hi and where you're joining from, or type hashtag replay. Really appreciate your support. I'm Dr. P. I'm a business coach. I'm a strategic business coach. And what I enjoy doing is sharing with you my experiences from being a school psychologist in K-12 schools and how I'm applying that within business. You know, I enjoy coaching, teaching, mentoring, and I'm also a part-time faculty for a psychology program that is completely online, right? So John Dewey, if you don't know who John Dewey was, he was an American psychologist and an education reformer. So he did mention that about the power of reflection on our own experiences. So being an entrepreneur, I know, I get it. There's so many things that you have to do especially during your first year, right? There's so many hats that you wear. There are all these goals that you have, and the goals seem so distant. They seem so far out there that you're like, oh my gosh, I'd rather just give up than working on it, because there's so much stuff that you have to do and the goals are just so big and can be so overwhelming, right? But the thing is that we often forget something when we're looking at those goals. And it can also be how we write the goal and what we are working on towards that goal that leads to that frustration for not completing the goal, right? Because I know, like, as a school psychologist and a special education administrator, I was confronted with a lot of problems, and you had to find those solutions, right? Had to find the solutions to help people with those problems that they were talking about. And you're looking at all these different sources of information just to figure out what is the root of the problem so that you can identify what the solution is. Then comes the goal. So the thing is that once you've identified what the problem was and the solution, a lot of times people thought, okay, yeah, fine, we're done, we can move on. But the part that a lot of people overlooked was that implementation part. That implementation part was the trickiest and the hardest. Why? Because that's where you're putting the work in. When you're looking at that implementation, there's this huge goal that you have that you cannot just achieve it overnight. You have to have these little tasks that you have to do, you know, objectives that you have to reach so that you can reach that big goal. But for a lot of us, once we found out the solution, we think, okay, yeah, tomorrow we could do this and it's over. You know, we've conquered that problem, we move on to the next thing. But it doesn't work like that, because you are going to be looking at that big goal, and then you have to look at the different parts within that goal and you work towards them. So when you just focus on the big goal, when you're focusing on that end result, it can become really overwhelming because it seems so far out of your reach. But when you start focusing on smaller parts of the goal, smaller tasks that you can do to accomplish those goals, and actually giving yourself credit for what you've actually accomplished, then that makes such a big difference, right? It makes a huge, huge difference. But the key is you got to actually be able to continue on the path. Because when we're sitting in something day in and day out, it seems so far out of our reach that we're going to be able to accomplish this goal that we have in mind, right? So when you're, like I said, you're focusing on the end part, you're focusing so far in the future that you're not taking time to recognize what's happening in the here and now in front of you. So like I said, working in the schools, when we're sitting down and we're looking at whatever the problem is, whether it's the evaluation result or we're looking at some intervention to implement, you know, you had to look at all the information you had. Then you had to identify the problem to match it to the solution. But then you had to lay the path, the groundwork for accomplishing the solution. And the solution, like I said, wasn't accomplished overnight. It was those small tasks that you had to take. So something that a lot of us were overlooking was actually giving ourselves credit for those small tasks that we actually accomplished, because that makes a huge difference. Once you can pay attention to those small tasks, it keeps you to be moving forward, right? You have to be looking at not just what you're going to accomplish in 6 months, you know, or what you're going to accomplish in 3 years or 5 years. You got to look at what you're going to accomplish in smaller chunks. And the smaller chunks depends on the type of goal you have. Because some things you might need to look at it weekly. Some things you might need to look at it monthly, depending on the type of goal and how you have to measure your goal. So that's why another part of this whole goal process and goal setting process and goal implementation process is how you're going to measure your success towards that goal. And remember, I said success towards that goal, not the thing that's going to make you go, I don't want to do this goal no more. You're looking at those things that are giving you the success to help you stay focused on moving forward within your goal, because it's that movement forward is what helps to keep us going in our business. If not, guess what? You end up feeling stuck. You end up feeling frustrated. You end up thinking, oh my gosh, this was the wrong idea and maybe I shouldn't be having a business. And here's the thing. Don't give up on your business. We can figure out what the problem is. Chances are if you're looking too big picture and not smaller chunks, that's probably what's stopping you from moving forward. So when you are actually looking to do this, you're engaging in that one thing that I said I want to share with you that I myself have done and I have found it to be so beneficial. I'm not sure if you caught it, but last week I did do a training on self-regulated learning, and you can find that in the video section on Facebook. And within that training, I did mention this one thing that really has more power than people give it credit. Because a lot of times we don't really want to sit down and focus on this because it's too much work, right? It's too much work and we don't want to do it. But if you do it, it will give you so much more than you can ever imagine. It really can, because it's going to help you to stay motivated. This one thing is going to help you stay motivated because this one thing is connected to your why and your reason for your goal, which is also connected to the vision and mission of your business, the reason why you started your business in the first place. So when you do this one thing, it really does help you out so much. Like I said, I've done it throughout my career as a school psychologist. I've done it as a coach as well. And it has made such an improvement. And I always share it with others that I work with, and they too find it very rewarding to help themselves move forward, right? So this one thing, like I said, this one thing is called self-reflection and celebration too. Because when you do the self-reflection, you got to give yourself some credit and actually celebrate the successes that you've actually uncovered once you've done that self-reflection. So self-reflection is a part of self-regulated learning. The entrepreneurship research journal actually mentioned that self-reflection, planning, and monitoring are big in self-regulated learning. And they're big for you and for me as entrepreneurs. Why? Because planning, monitoring, and self-reflection, that's what's going to help keep us on that path for moving forward. We have to be incorporating them in our strategic plan. Regardless of the type of business you have to be incorporating it in your plan, right? Because once you engage in self-reflection, you're going to be looking at both the positives and the negatives. The problem is a lot of us tend to just focus on the negative. We need to stop that. There is a time and purpose for looking at the negatives, but we need to give ourselves credit for what we've actually accomplished, for those successes, the good things that have happened, the things that we've learned. We need to be giving ourselves credit for that, because once you do that, it's going to help give you that excitement, to remind you of that passion, to remind you of the why, the reason why you started your business, the reason why this goal is important for you. And hence, it's going to lead you to that motivation, because it's going to keep you motivated. It's going to keep you focused on what you want to accomplish for your business. Once you engage in self-reflection, looking at the positives, right? Don't just dwell on the negatives. I know how easy it is to focus on the negatives, and then we spend so much time on those negatives, and then before we know it, we just start to feel down in the dumps and then you want to give up. That's not the purpose of self-reflection. Self-reflection is for you to also look at the positives, looking at your successes, looking at the things you've done so far for what you're working towards, giving yourself credit for what you've done. So I really, really challenge you. I challenge you to look at the positives. So when you're looking at your goal, right? You got this big goal and you're starting to think, oh my gosh, there's no way I'm going to accomplish this. I'm so done with this. I need to move on and start something else. Here's the thing though, before you start shifting gears, self-reflect. Look at what you have done towards that goal. Look at all those tasks you have accomplished, all the actions you have taken. Look at all those things. and look to see what the outcome was for all those things. Remember I mentioned metrics, right? So you should be looking at your metrics. I don't know what your metrics are for measuring the goal that you have in mind, right? So you need to look at your metrics. How are you measuring your success towards the goal? How are you measuring your effectiveness? So you look at those things, and once you're looking at those things, you're going to start to see where you're actually making improvements. So here's what I learned when working in the schools, right? When we came to implementing an intervention, right? We have the goal in mind. We know what we want to achieve. And now we have the intervention we implemented. A lot of people think you implement it today and boom, tomorrow it was great. The child responded well and you take off. But that's not how it works. It really doesn't. Once you implement today, you got to stay consistent with it and keep the implementation going. But you have to do some monitoring of it. Remember, you have the planning and the monitoring and the self-reflection part that are part of this whole learning process, right? Part of this whole journey we have as entrepreneurs. So you have to be monitoring your progress. And it is when you monitor your progress that you're going to be able to highlight what some of those positives are. So when we were in the schools, did these interventions, and there were times when we sat down and did like this data analysis checks. We looked at what was going on. Because when you're living the implementation of something every single day, you don't really feel like it's making that big of a difference. But once we sat down and we put the data in some charts and we really looked at those trend lines to see how was the child responding to the intervention, that's where it made the difference, right? Because you got it down, we knew what our metric was for measuring progress, we looked at it and we looked at how the trend for the student. And that showed us, oh my gosh, we're actually showing some improvements. So same thing in business. Once you know what your metric is for measuring the goal that you have in mind for your business, whatever your goal is, you know what that metric is. You know, if it is in terms of increasing your visibility, so how are you increasing your visibility? You got to be able to identify, is that through your social media posts alone, through video posts, through video lives, whatever it is that you have for increasing your visibility. That could be your goal. If you have a goal towards networking, if you have a goal towards improving your strategic plan, the thing is, whatever your goal is, you know how you are going to be measuring your metric on that progress towards that goal. So then when you're doing your self-reflection, you are looking at that progress that you've made towards that goal to be able to say, hey, how am I doing on that? Am I doing as bad as I think? Or am I doing good but not as good as I think? Whichever way is going to really help you to sit down and look at the progress that you have been making so that you can identify where you've had those successes. And once you've identified where you've had those successes, here's the other thing I would like for you to do. I would like for you to celebrate your successes. Because I've worked with so many different people who at the end of the day, yeah, they go, oh yeah, that was a good thing, and then they move on. But then when it comes to the negative, oh my God, they dwell on the negatives and they beat themselves. Why do we do that to ourselves? We need to stop. Here's where you celebrate your success. Because through the celebration, you are giving yourself a reward. And I like to reward myself. So whenever I reach a goal that I set up for myself and I look for my reward that I have, it is great to say, yay, I'm getting my reward. So that reward could be ordering your favorite food or going to your favorite restaurant, you know, eating your favorite dessert, watching a few episodes on Netflix. I mean a few though. Don't be going binge watching on Netflix or on Amazon Prime, wherever you watch your TV, your favorite shows on whatever. Point is, you need to find a reward that you like, that you want. And when you are realizing through your self-reflection the progress you've made, the small goals, the small tasks that you have actually accomplished, celebrate by giving yourself that lovely reward that you had your eyes on, the thing you've been waiting on, and help keep your motivation in place for your business. Because once you stay motivated, your passion is going to be there. You're going to keep moving forward. You're going to keep looking at other goals. You're going to keep going towards success. And that's why self-reflection is important. It helps you to move forward in your business, right? For self-reflection though, you have to include self-reflection in your schedule. So be sure to include some time in your schedule for self-reflection. And whatever method you choose to self-reflect, that is up to you. It should be one that you're most comfortable with. But do include in your schedule time for you to do self-reflection and celebrate your successes as well. If you want to learn more about how you can use self-reflection, you can feel free to send me a message. Remember, solutions plus actions equals results. Thanks, y'all. Thanks so much for joining me. Till next time. Bye.